All right, good morning. How you all doing? All right, so we've reached the final part of our Excel training, and we are going to cover the various aspects in data analysis. Now, when you look at the functions of Excel, one of the key functions of Excel is data analysis. When you check the uses of Excel, why Excel was created, one of the major one is what we call data analysis. And so it is extremely important that you know how to use Excel to analyze data. So that is what we want to look into today. Now, when it comes to data analysis, there are a number of tools that are used for data analysis. Over here, I have a list of some of the basic tools that are used for data analysis. And we can use data bars to do some little analysis. We can use a status bar to get some quick analysis. We can use sorting for some analysis. We can use filtering for analysis. We can use charts for analysis. We can use if functions for analysis. We can use pivot tables for analysis, and we can use the lookup functions for analysis. There are other tools we can use for analysis, but these are some of the basic tools that you should have command over. So what is data analysis? What is data analysis? It says that data analysis is the science of examining a set of data to draw conclusions about the information and to be able to make decisions or simply expand your knowledge on various subjects. It is simple. When we talk about analyzing data, it's all about examining or inspecting data and deriving information out of data. We have learned that there is a difference between data and information. Data is not the same as information. Data refers to raw facts, and information is processed data. When data is processed, then we have information. For you to get information, you need to analyze data before an information will be given. For example, you have sales records of each month. At the end of the year, you want to sit down and check all the sales from the various months. By the time you look at all the sales, you are going to get some trends. You are going to get some patterns. And that will let you understand something about your business or about the market. Now, what you are going to understand is the information. Your data can give you information when you look at it. So in looking at your data, we call that data analysis. Now, looking at the data manually can be very difficult if you have large sets of data. If you have hundreds and thousands of rows of data and you think you can look at them yourself and be able to put the numbers together and understand, it's going to be difficult. That is why we have Excel. And Excel has tools to help us analyze data of any size. Last week I used an example and I said that when they give you the ingredients that are used to make rice and they ask you to eat the ingredients, you can't eat it. They give you the raw rice, they give you salt, onions, oil, and they tell you to eat. You can't eat because those are raw materials. But when we put all of them together and we cook them, we are going to get cooked rice. Now the cooked rice, when they ask you to eat, you'll have no problem with that. And so when it comes to business decisions, we make our decisions based on information. but then we use a raw fact to determine the information. So data is simply raw material. Data is a basic or raw data or raw fact that you have. You need to process them or cook them, and it will become information. All right, so let's get into Excel. We have some data sheets we can use for our analysis, and the first type of analysis we are going to do is the data bars. The data bars out here will give us certain bars to help us easily look at our data. For example, let's analyze the gross salary over here and see what is happening. Now, for me to get to the end of this column, I clicked on the first one and I press Ctrl Shift and the down arrow. So once you do that, it will highlight the entire column for you. You can try for us to see. Ctrl Shift and the down arrow, and you have the entire column instead of dragging through. So last week I saw that some of you were dragging and dragging and dragging. Ctrl Shift and the down arrow key. Excellent. So you have that selected. Now, to insert the data bars, we can insert it in several forms. Let me just use a conditional formatting because it is actually under conditional formatting. Under conditional formatting, we have our data bars over here, and these data bars will help you plot some bars that will let your data stand out. Now, when it comes to analyzing data, it's all about deriving information from your data. And because of the bars, I can quickly tell that some of the records here are lower and others are higher. So this is one simple tool you can use to just check a list of numbers. Now, if the rows are so many, it may not be the best tool, but if you have just a few rows, you can use data bars to help you understand. Apart from data bars, we also have at the same place the color scales. The color scales can help. Let me clear the data bars and use the color scales. When you go to conditional formatting, right under data bars, we have the color scales. So the color scales, when you select them, what it does is that it highlights the data for you with a gradient based on the color you selected or the color scale you selected, and it tries to show data that are high or above average and data that are around the average, that those are in yellow, and the data below average will be in red. So anytime I look at anything, I can immediately tell this is around the average. This is a little bit above average because the color is a little bit different. Then we have, once I go through, I can easily tell. I can clearly say that this is the last or the lowest record here because it is very red. All right, so this is one way you can also look at your data, and we are just talking about how to make your data analysis easy or how to get information. This can help me get some information, so it's part of analysis. Let me go back to formatting and clear this first. You go to clear rules and clear from entire sheet. So I've cleared it, and I'm going to apply one last thing over there and we'll move on. So I will go to the icon sets, and I can use the icons to analyze my data here. So the icons, you can choose any of them. So I chose the circle ones, and what they do is that they will give me icons in colors. The red ones means they are below average, yellow ones are around the average, and the green ones are above average. All these tools can help you look at your data easily. All right, let me clear them and we'll move on. Okay. Now let's look at the status bar analysis. Status bar analysis is simply getting quick information from your status bar. When you select the entire column like this and you look at your status bar, you are going to get some quick information, and that is what we are talking about. The first information I get is my average. So over here, if I'm asked to find the average of, if I'm supposed to find the average gross salary right here without performing any calculations, without using any functions or any formulas, I can immediately see my average. I can also get a count. So without performing any calculations, I can easily get my count. And here I have the sum. So if I just want to know the sum, we are talking about analysis. I want to know the sum. Let's say I want to know the total of the taxes paid. I can highlight the whole row and check immediately and know that we are paying 41,445 in tax. And the average employee is paying around 440.90. So this is there to help you get some quick information from your data, and it's part of data analysis. Let's move on to the next thing, that says sorting data. Now, sorting data simply refers to rearranging your data for it to make more sense to you. Rearranging your data for it to make more sense to you. And in rearranging our data, I want us to take note of the num or number column here. I'm going to talk about it. I'll talk about this. Let's just take note of it. Now, to rearrange your data, we are talking about sorting data, and like I said, sorting is simply rearranging your data for it to make more sense. Now, sometimes when you are looking for information, you may want to rearrange your data. Let's say we have all these rows of data here and we have 97 in all, but I'm trying to locate all workers from one particular branch like Accra, and I can see one of them here, Sarah Peters. I can see another one, Teresa Bento. Now it is difficult for me to go through it this way and put all the information together, so I'm just going to sort them. Now, to do sorting, we can find the sorting on the data tab. On the data tab, that is where a lot of analysis is done. When I move to the data tab, you are going to see one group here that says sort and what? Sort and filter. Sort and filter. I like that. Now, this sort and filter, it helps you to do sorting with these tools here and filtering with the tools over here. Now let's look at the sorting first. With the sorting, we have one button here that says sort A to Z or lowest to highest. Then we have another one here that says sort Z to A or highest to lowest. Then we have this one here that when you click on, you will get a dialog box to perform a dynamic sorting or a more complex or an advanced sorting. Alright, now let's start with the A to Z sorting. With the A to Z sorting, all you have to do is to click anywhere within the column you want to analyze or the column you want to sort. Anywhere within the column you want to sort. So I'm trying to sort from the branch column, so I can click anywhere and I will come here and select A to Z. Once I select A to Z, I will see that it will quickly rearrange the data in this form. So I can see my Accra employees together, and I can also check for other branches and see that, oh, our Cape Town employees are also together. Then our whole employees are also here. Our Kumasi folks are also here. Lagos folks are also here. So this can help me get a lot of information from this data. Remember, analysis is all about getting information, and this can help me in so many ways. So sorting is a great tool for analyzing your data. I can also come to the last name section and say, oh, I want to see my employees in alphabetical order. I want to see their names in alphabetical order based on last name. Now, whenever you are sorting, you sort based on a certain column. So I can come to the last name section, come to sort and filter. I'm using the sort A to Z, and what it will do is that it will rearrange the employees and give me the names in alphabetical order from the first to the very last. And this can help me get some information from my data. Remember, when you are analyzing data, you may want to get, or during analysis, the information you may need, it will be based on what you are looking for. So you need to know the various ways of analyzing so that you can actually get whatever you want based on what you will be looking for. All right, now when we look up here, we are going to see that there's an arrow on this particular drop down button. This arrow is simply telling us that sorting has taken place over here. Over here there is no sorting, but here sorting has been done. Over here sorting has been done, but here there's no sorting. So this arrow here is just letting you know that sorting has taken place over here. All right, let's move on. Over here we have date employed, and each employee has the date they came to the company, and we want to find out the dates of employment in ascending order. So you just select anywhere, go to the A to Z, and it's going to do that for you with just a click of a button. It will sort them out for you. And here we can see that the first employee was employed in 1979, 19th of April, and when you look down, the last employee was employed in 1994, November 1994. So this is analysis. Another thing we can do is to find out our net salary. Let's look at the, okay, let's go to gross salary. Is to look at our gross salary and tell who is receiving the highest payment in the company. So we want to do some sorting, and this sorting we want to do it highest to lowest instead of lowest to highest. So you can click anywhere, it doesn't matter where you click, whether first, middle or last, it doesn't matter. You just have to come to the sort over here, sort and filter, and this time we are going to use largest to smallest or highest to lowest. Once you click on this, it will immediately rearrange your data for you. Remember, it is not just rearranging this column, it is rearranging the entire data. So over here I can know that our Sarah Peters is still the highest paid employee in the company, followed by Priscilla Mensah, Courage Abel, George Boateng, Abigail Binga, and so on. So we understand that sorting can be done in ascending order or in a descending order. Now, most of the time when the data is being sorted in different forms, Remember, whenever you sort, the data is rearranged. It's not just a column that is rearranged. And so you can see that the original order we had has changed. And sometimes you may want to rearrange your data back to the original state, how the data was before you started doing your sorting analysis. Now, if you want to do that, you have to make sure you have a numbering system in your data. Without a numbering system, it may be impossible to rearrange your data back to the original state. And I'm saying impossible because sometimes even undo will not be enough for you to reverse the arrangement, because if the new arrangement is saved, then undo will not work next time. But if I have a numbering system here, I can easily sort based on my numbering system, and I will get my data back in its original state. Because of this numbering system here, my data has gone back to how it was. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should have this num field here or column here, or it doesn't mean it should always be num. You can have ID. You can use any of the columns that are in ascending order or originally was in an ascending order. If you didn't have anything like that, it is important to make sure we have something that can help us to reverse our data back to the original state. Because of this numbering system here, I know that the first record here or the first row here is 1, followed by 2, 3, 4 in that order. This is how my data was before I started my analysis. Remember, when you analyze, let's say I'm going to analyze by first name, and I'm going to sort in ascending order. I'll come here and click sort ascending order, and I'm going to see the sorting. Now, once the sorting is done, you can see that the numbering system has mixed up. Even though it has mixed up, my focus is on the first name and I'm getting my information. But if later I want to reverse my data, I would have to use a numbering system to do my sorting and reverse my data back to the original state. Does it make sense to you? Excellent. Now, let's move on to the next item, and it says filtering data. Apart from the sorting, we also have filters. So we have the sort here and we have filters. So we have used the sorting. Now we want to use the filters over here. Now, when we say filters, you need to understand what filters are. Let me come here and create some short data here, like products, date, unit cost, total, okay, so we have price here, and we have our total. All right. Now, if I have a data set like this, watch what I'm going to do to get my filters working. First of all, I can click anywhere in the data, anywhere at all, anywhere. Then I'll come to data tab and turn on my filter. You see that the filter icon is off, it's not activated. When I click on it, now you can see that it's on. Anytime the filters is on, it's activated this way. Now, once I come back to my data, I will see that even though my data has not been converted to tables. What we have here is a normal list. It is not a table. I'm having my filters. This is what we call the filters. They are the drop down arrows, and they help you to analyze your data. Your filters will show on any data set whether it is a table or not. But when it comes to tables automatically have filters. So we can see that there are drop downs on all our tables. Please, are you here? Excellent. Now these filters, what do we use them for? We use them for serious analysis, and let's see how they are used. Let's start with a branch again, and let's click on the branch filter. Now filters can help you sort from A to Z, Z to A, can help you sort by color. Because what we are having is under text, we can get text filters here. Now before I come to text filters, let me deal with this section. Over here, what you can see here are unique selections of the entire column. So the data in that entire column is made up of these unique values here. We can see that all of them are selected. So because I want to use filters to analyze my data, I'm going to deselect all of them and choose only one. Now see what will happen when you apply a filter. I'm going to apply a filter based on what I've selected here. When I come here and I click OK, what will happen here is that my data is going to be truncated or shortened, and I'm only going to have the data I filtered out. So what I see here is only Accra, because the filter I used is just for Accra. Now once I have Accra, I can quickly understand what is going on here, and I will know that everything here is about Accra. So if I'm looking for something from the Accra group or in the Accra group, I can easily find it because the data has been shortened based on the filter you used. Apart from that, if I want to know totals from Accra, I can just click on the first one here, Control Shift down, and it will pick everything for me. I will move to my status bar and I will see that the total salary paid in Accra is this. Count is what? 19, and this is the average. We are still talking about analysis. So in analysis, we are looking for information. We have gotten our information. Okay, what if I don't want to filter by Accra anymore? I can click on this. Now this time when you come here, you can see that the icon here has changed. This time I'm not getting the sort icon, I'm getting a filter icon. Over here on this filter, there is nothing on it, but the main filter icon is showing here, and it tells me that filtering has been done on this particular column. All right, I don't want to filter anymore. I'm done getting my information. I'm satisfied. So I'll click here, and what I will do is to select this option. What does it say? Clear filter from branch, and the entire data will come back. Oh, I thought the data was lost. Okay, the entire data is back because I have cleared my filter. Okay, let me filter by department. All right, so I come to department. I say, oh, I want to get my sales employees. I click here and I come down here. I deselect everything and select only sales. Excellent. I click OK, and I will see that my data has been shortened to only sales. Wow, I still have a lot of sales workers. Let me check how many they are. Control Shift down. I pick all of them, and because this is not about numbers, you can see that it's only giving me what? The count, because the sales or what I selected has no numbers in it. so it can't perform the calculation. But if I want to know their salaries, I will use the salary column, and that one will give me the salary paid to the sales employees, and I can see that the total is 81,000. Count is 30. Wow, we have 30 employees in sales department. Hey, wow. Okay, so that is good. So management may want this information, and they would have to analyze the data of the company to be able to get that information. Over here we can see that the filter icon is showing on department. If I'm done filtering, I can clear from filter or just come here and change. I want to get information from the research. I want to know the research employees, so I'll just move to research, click OK, and my data will be rearranged, and I'll have only research. So when you check department, only research is showing here. Okay, let me clear this filter and let me filter quickly by branch. Okay, now I want to find out all the employees from the whole branch, so I'm filtering by whole, and I can see that okay, the data has been truncated and I have the whole. When I check whole, I can see that I have 19 employees in whole. Okay, that's fair enough. Now one thing I want to point out to you is that when you look on your rows here, the row numbers here, you can see that it is no longer 1 2 3 4 5 6. The numbers are not in order. What it means is that the data that we are not supposed to see have been hidden. Those rows have been hidden. That is why after 3 we got a jump to 7, because between 3 and 7 the rows over there have just been hidden. All right, that is the explanation to that. When I release this, they will all come back, and it's now 1 2 3 as usual. Okay, let's come here and say that we are looking for someone called Emmanuel, but we don't know which Emmanuel. Let's filter our data by all employees called Emmanuel and see what will happen. So we click here and we see a lot of names. Let's deselect all of them and look for Emmanuel and select Emmanuel. Now when we come here and we click OK, the data is going to be shortened, and now we can see that how many Emmanuels do we have in the company? We have 2 Emmanuels. So now we have the 2 filtered out. So whatever we are looking for from those 2, we can now get that information. All right, you can filter by anything you want. This time let me filter by last name and say I want to filter by a name like Mensa. So when I filter by Mensa, I'm going to see all our Mensa, and I think we have 5 Mensa in this company. Now if there's a duplicate, will I see it? After doing this, if there's a duplicate, will I know? I'm saying that if there's a duplicate, won't I see it here? That's what I'm saying. Because I filtered by Mensa, if let's say Priscilla is repeating, Priscilla Mensa is repeating, I'll just know. So even though they are all Mensa, they are not the same person. Excellent. So this is filtering, and filtering helps a lot. Now one other thing we need to know about filtering is that filtering can be done in a number of ways. Now when I'm on a number column and I move to number filters, I can see that there are several options here for me to be able to do my filtering. I have equals, does not equal, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, between, top 10, above average, below average, and all of these are under number filters. We are seeing number filters just because the column we have selected contain numbers. If you select text, you are going to get text filters. If you select date, you are going to get date filters. So based on what you select, the type of filters will show. Okay, so what do I do with this? All right, let's say I want to use a greater than. I choose greater than and I have more options. So it says that gross salary is greater than. Okay, let me enter 3,000. I want to see all our employees who are earning greater than 3,000. If I want to add more criteria, I can do that here. Let's say it's greater than and something, or greater than or something. I just want to do a greater than, so I'll leave it this way and I will just click OK. So what is going to happen is that the data has been filtered and I'm seeing a list of all employees who are taking more than 3,000 in the company, and this is helpful in data analysis. Please, are you here? Excellent. This is called filters. Let me perform a text filter and text filter on branch. Let's go to branch. So I click on branch. Because what I've selected is text, I'm having a text filter. So under text filters, we have equals, does not equals, begins with, ends with, contains, does not contain. All right, so I can say begins with, let's go to begins with and say begins with A. Begins with A. Okay, so once I say begins with A, we will see that it's going to filter anything that begins with A. There's an easier way of getting the branch filtering because the branches are easy to filter. But when you have something like the first name and I want to get all first names that contains or ends with or begins with, let's use the begins with again and try the A, S and C. So all first names that begins with A, once you click OK, what is going to happen is that we are going to get all our A workers. Please, is that okay? Excellent. Let me remove the filter and filter again with begins with, I'll say begins with A, and let me change the option again, and equals, does not equal, is greater than, is less than, begins with, ends with, does not begin with, let me use ends with E. So any name that begins with A and ends with E, remember the logic here is end. I could have selected all. When you use end, the result is going to be more strict. That means it needs to conform to this criteria and it needs to conform with this criteria before it will work or it will show. Let's try that and see. So when I click OK, I have two people. Wow, you see that their names begins with what? A and ends in what? E. Excellent. So this is a text filter. Let me try another one. Let me clear this and try another one. Text filter begins with, this time begins with A or begins with B. This time the logic is or. Or means it can be in this group, it could be in this group or this particular group. It's different from the AND logic. All right, so when I click this, I'm going to get more people because we have two options. You can be either in the A group or the B group. Does this make sense to you? This is very, very good for analysis, and no matter how long your data is, you'll be able to get information. Let's do our last filtering with the date filters. When you come to the date filters, you can see years here. When you can come here to date filters and you will see what to do. Over here we have options like before, after, between, tomorrow. So I can say tomorrow. That means all records that the date is tomorrow. Now we have a lot of dates, so we don't know what the dates are. If I choose yesterday and no one was employed yesterday, we are going to get 0. So we have all these are options because we are in the date filters. They are showing because you are in the date. So these are all the options they give under date filters. All right, let's say between January 1990 to 31st December 2021 or 2020. Okay, so now we have few people. So it's all about filtering, and the filters are working. Let me just put one last one here and see. Let me move to last name section and perform a test filter, and this time let's try the last one that says custom filter. With a custom filter, you have the custom auto filter and you will choose your options. So last name, we can use last name contains the letters or contains TU. We want anyone whose last name contains TU. Let's run it and see. Okay, we have 2 people. We have Pearl Tutu and Emmanuel Otu. Does that make sense to you? Beautiful. All right. Now, anytime you have any data set, you can press Ctrl A. For example, the data set I created here. Let me take off the filters. Okay, so watch this. If you have filters showing and you don't want your filters anymore, you can just come back here and click again to turn them off, and the filters are gone. Let's move to the tables. And even though tables automatically come with filters, if I don't want the filters anymore, I can come here and turn this off, and you see that even though they are tables, there are no filters. The filters are gone. Please, can you see that? If I want the filters back, I can turn the filters on. And anytime I perform a filter, I can clear the filter from here. I can reapply. This will reapply the filter and sort on the current range so that changes you've made are included. Then we have the advanced filters here, and when you click on advanced filter, you get a list of range and the criteria. This will look at this later. All right, but I think we've done justice to filters. What I wanted to tell you is that anytime you have a data set, click anywhere and press Ctrl A, and the data will be selected. Excellent. All right, so we've looked at filters and all that. Let's look at chart. Now, charts are great for analysis. Charts are great for analysis, and they quickly give us information. So any tool that helps you to get information quickly is an analysis tool. So let's say we want to plot a chart. I want to plot for only sales. I can filter by sales, and after filtering by sales, I can actually select first and last name and gross salary and use it to create some charts and see. Okay, so I have some charts here, and this chart I can move it to a new sheet. We've already learned about charts. So over here I still have a lot of data to look at, but I can easily tell which one is the lowest. So there's someone here called Vida Yeboah. She got the lowest salary. Then I can easily tell who is the highest here, and this highest is from Sarah Peters. I can easily tell. So Charts are also used for analysis, and to make your chart more meaningful, it is better to either filter this data first or use what we call pivot tables to filter your data and create your pivot chart or your chart. All right, let me remove my filter. I think I have some filters. It's on department. Clear. Excellent. Now let's move on. If functions. If functions. All right, so if we have the if function, the if function can be used to give us some information. For example, we can say that we want to determine employees who are part-time and full-time. So let's say we have a column here for work type, and we want to know whether some of them are part-time and full-time, and so we want to use the if function to determine that. So I'll say that if, let's say, your basic salary is greater than 3,000, you are a full-time employee. Let's say that's the criteria. If basic salary is greater than 3,000, then show full-time, else show part-time. So once I do this and I hit enter, it's going to tell me full-time and part-time. Okay, so here I've been able to get some quick information from my data by using the if function. And this particular analysis, I'm using a function to create a new column that will pick out certain information from the main data set. So here I can easily tell those who are full-time and part-time, and now I can even filter them. I can filter here. Now when you check your filters here, you can see that they are just two, right? So I can now filter by part-time employees, and once I do that, I will know that, wow, we have a lot of part-time workers. I have 80 part-time. Wow, interesting. Let me change my filter to full-time and see how many full-time. Okay, so our full-time employees are not many. They are just about 14. All of these helps us to find information in analysis. Excellent. Let me undo the part-time and full-time thing. I just wanted to use the if function for you to see. We have what we call pivot tables. And these pivot tables are powerful tools, or the pivot table we are looking at is one of the most powerful data analysis tools in Excel. When you click on the insert tab, you are going to see pivot table as the very first option or command over there, and it says that it will easily arrange or rearrange and summarize complex data into a simple data, or rearrange complex data to make it simple for analysis. That's what pivot table does. For information, you can double click a value to see which detailed values make up the summarized total. This is so cool. All right, so we have our data here, and we can see that this data is a lot. Actually, I've created another sheet for our pivot table analysis. and we are going to use that data for the pivot tables. Now when it comes to these pivot tables here, we want to summarize the data we have here. All right, to do that, I'm going to highlight this data by pressing Ctrl A. Remember, you can press Ctrl A in the middle of the data to highlight. Then I'll go to pivot table, and it has picked it for me automatically. Now your pivot table can be inserted into a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. I like to use a new worksheet, so I'll click OK. All right, when it comes to working with pivot tables, once you insert a pivot table, over here you get an empty table, and this particular empty table helps you to build a report, and it asks you to choose your fields from the pivot table field list. So this is the empty table that is going to generate your pivot table for you, but because you have not selected your fields, it is empty right now. Now, what is a pivot table? A pivot table is simply a summary table from a large data set. Simple. Now, because we selected the data we want to use for pivot table, over here we are seeing the fields. We are seeing the fields that make up that data, and the fields here, we are going to use these fields to perform the analysis. Now the analysis will be done in 4 boxes. These 4 boxes here are the filters, columns, rows, and values. All you have to do is to pick any field and drop in one of these 4 boxes for the table to be rearranged for you. Remember, pivot table is all about rearranging your table to make it easier to read. So you can drop any of the fields here into any of the 4 boxes so that you can easily get your data to analyze. Okay, now again, we have filters, we have columns, we have rows, and we have values. Filters is just like the filters we learned. It helps the data to filter based on what you will drop here. Columns here will talk about what will show at the top of the table. Rows will talk about what to show on the left side of the table, and values talks about what to show in the data itself, in the middle of the table. Now the values section here is like the most important one of them, because if you are doing analysis based on numbers or based on values that are countable like numbers, this is where the values will be calculated. Let me explain it by dropping, let's say, the sales here. I'll just drag the sales and drop it here. So once I drop this here, the table has been created for me, and immediately I have the sum of sales. Immediately I have the sum of sales. Now it is because I dropped the sales in the value section. It has created the sum for me. It has calculated the sum for me. Please, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. Now let me go to column section and say I'm going to drop salesperson in column section. Once I drop salesperson in column section, what is happening is that the salespeople will be showed at the column, and each of their sales will be given to me under their names, and the total is the total we saw before, the sum of sales. Let me move this salesperson and drop the sales in the rows box area. When I drop it in the rows, this is how it's going to look like. What are pivot tables? Pivot tables are summary tables, or a rearrangement of a large table for you to be able to analyze your data. Now, when you look at the real data, you can see that some of the employees here, like Bishop appears so many times. If we want to filter by Bishop, we will see that Bishop has a lot of sales. Can you see this? But the pivot tables we created here, what it has done here is to give me a summary of the sales of Bishop based on how I selected I dropped the data or the fields in these areas. Let me put something in columns. Let's say I want to know by region. I want to see regions in the columns. Once you do that, what will happen is that even though we are still getting information about these three salespeople, it is telling us their work in the regions. So Bishop in Central region, this is what he did. In Northern region, this is what he did. In Western region, this is what he did. So I'm seeing Bishop's work based on regions, and regions is showing at the column section here because I dropped it in the column area. The grand total is still the same for Bishop, and the grand total is still the same for our sales. What is this pivot table doing? The pivot table is helping me to analyze my information. So right now, if I want to create a chart for, let's say, these three employees, I can easily get a chart that makes sense now. Like the chart we wanted to create before, it wouldn't have made sense. If we had used a real data, it would have been difficult to get this chart. But we have created a pivot table, and out of the pivot table, our data has been summarized, and after the summary, we've been able to create our chart. Let me come here and rearrange what is happening here. Let me bring region to rows and send salesperson to columns, and we will see that it has swapped them. Let me come here and bring type into filter. So over here I'm seeing type all. I can filter by one particular product, let's say ice cream, and now that I'm selecting ice cream, you can see that our grand total is no longer the same. It has given me their sales based on this filter, ice cream. So Bishop, I'm getting Bishop sales, but it's not all of his sales. I'm getting his sales based on ice cream alone. If I say I want his sales on frozen yogurt, I'll select it, and you see that the numbers changed, and these are Bishop sales for this product. If I want for all products, I can select that, and I have the figures here. Let me bring the type rather to rows and move regions to filters and check again. So you can see that because I put a type in rows, I'm getting Bishop sales for these items. So Bishop frozen yogurt, this is what he did. Ice cream, this is what he did. This and that and that and that. All of them the same and the total. So what are pivot tables? Pivot tables are summary tables. What they do is that they rearrange your data based on what you are looking for, and you will be able to move your fields in these areas and turn the data anyhow you want. All right, so these are pivot tables. They are used to rearrange your data to get information, and they help you to turn the data around so that any information you are looking for will be delivered to you. So even with the first data we had, we could have created a pivot table out of this, and let's say the pivot table we created, we wanted branch on the rows section, so I drop branch in rows and I'm seeing it here. I want to drop the gross salary under the values. Remember, the values one is very important. You need to drop your gross salary there. Now watch this. Because I just put in the rows and the values, I have seen the total sales from Accra right here. I have seen total sales from all the branches, and I can highlight this for the chart we wanted to create that was messing up big time. Now we have the chart here. Now I know that who is leading. Really? Okay, I'm saying really because I've gotten information. Yes, once you see information, you can say like you can say really, wow, and those things, those interjections. So I said really because I'm shocked. Who is leading in salary? Okay, then Cape Town, South Africa is least. That's where the salary is low when we put all the employees together. All right, so because of our pivot tables, we have actually been able to summarize our data and created a chart that was impossible with the original data. Okay. All right, over here, let me drop branches under columns and see. Okay, so this way doesn't look too good for me, so you have to arrange it in a way that is okay. I can leave branches here, and let's say I want to bring department to my row section. And so what is happening here is that under each branch we are seeing all the departments and all the money is going into the various departments. Wow, this is interesting. So they are telling you that check the Accra and check all money is going to their department. So in the development department in Accra, this is how much is spent there. In the sales department, this is how much is spent there. Okay, this department should be like HR or something. It's called staff. Well, that's it. In the whole branch, the development department is taking this huge amount. Research is also taking this and all that. And this makes sense because I have gotten a summary of my data. Now, what someone will do is to create a side table. Sometimes when your data set is large, sometimes you see that we are creating side tables and we are using some if to get our summary, sum if. Remember one day we used a sum if, and the sum if helped us to get a summary of the data we have. But instead of using sum if and trying to create a summary table, you don't need a summary table. So the summary table we used the last time, it could have been the same, the information could have been gotten with a pivot table. What a pivot table does for you is to give you a summary table, period. It gives you a summary table. But then you can rearrange the summary table based on what you are looking for, and it will pull out that information for you. So that is what we have done right here with our pivot tables. The last thing I have here is our lookup functions, and the lookup functions here, what they do is to allow us to look up some information. For example, I'm going to create a small summary information here and say we want first name, last name, want to see basic salary, and gross salary. Okay, now this is the information we want, and this particular information we want to pick it from the main data, and we only have this small box, and what we want to do is that we want to find the information here, and we just want to pick any of our employees and get an information of that particular employee. So here we are going to have, let's say, a drop down of all our employees. So what I will do is that I will use data validation for the drop down first. So I'm going to use data validation. If you remember data validation, I'm going to use a list, and I'm going to select our first name, Control Shift down. I've selected the entire group of first name, Control Shift down, and I'm going to use it for my list. So that is a list here. So okay, so what is happening here is that in my summary table I have a drop down that is giving me first names. It doesn't mean I have to create this drop down. I could have avoided a drop down. Don't let that confuse you. But what I want to do is that anytime we choose any of the first names, this information should be populated for us. If we hadn't used a drop down, we could have typed. So anytime any employee you are looking for, you just type the first name and the details will show here. The reason why I use a drop down is that sometimes when you are typing, you don't type in the same way that the information is. For example, Bright, someone will type Bright with small b. So by using a drop down, you avoid all those things. All right, I want to pull out Bright's last name, basic salary, and gross salary. Where am I going to pull that information from? I'm going to pull from the main data, and I'm going to pull with a function, a very powerful function in Excel that is called VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP has about 4 criteria. First of all, it's going to request for a lookup value. What am I looking for? I'm looking for Bright. Okay, now where should I look for Bright? That's a table array. Look for Bright here. So I need to provide the entire data set, and this entire data set, I know it has a name, and the name is table 2. So I'm just going to provide that information here. Remember, when you create tables, the tables come with names. So this table is called table 2. You can find it here. That is a data set. That table is called table 2. I think we'll look at how to find the table names and even change the table name. Now, column index number. Column index number talks about the column of the information I'm looking for. Now, from first name, the next one is the information I'm looking for, which is last name. So I'm going to provide column number 2. I'm going to provide column as 2, and the last argument is a true or false argument. The true says approximate match, false says exact match. I'm going to use the exact match, so I'll type false. Don't worry about it. If you don't understand it, just use false every time. Okay, so I'm getting some error here. Look up this table 2. Oh, okay, all right, I get it. So the error is coming from my table. The error is coming from my table. When it comes to VLOOKUP, what you are looking for must come from the first column in your table. Now, over here, instead of selecting table 2, let me change that and select the data from here without the first column. Okay, so I've gotten the data here. Now, when they ask you for the table array, it is simply your data set. If your data set has a name, you can provide a name. So I think I have my data set here, and let's see what we are getting. So the column index number should rather be 2. So I have the surname here. Let me change the first name and see. Let's say Leslie. Okay, so I'm getting the last name of this person. Let's say Donald, I'm getting the last name. Let's say Susan, I'm getting the last name. How about the basic salary? The basic salary is the same function here, the same formula here. The only thing I'm going to change is the column index number, because basic salary is on column, it's on, if first name, last name is on column 2, basic salary is on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it's on column 7. So over here, I'm going to paste the function, the formula here, and change the column number to 7, and I'm going to get basic salary. Then gross salary, if this is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, gross salary will be on column 11. So I'm going to put 11 here, and I have the gross salary here. So because I have placed a lookup function in it, whenever I choose as an employee, we are going to see all the details of that employee. Whenever I choose an employee, we are going to get the details of that employee. Okay, so if I come here and I say I'm looking for Abigail, I can also type, I'll get Abigail's information. If I say I'm looking for Samuel, oh, there's no one called Samuel. Okay, fine. So I'm looking for Michael. I have Michael's information. Michael is called Michael Richardson. His basic salary is 2,000 and his gross is 2120. If I'm looking for Walter, I have Walter here and his information. If I'm looking for Dominic, I have Dominic here and his information. So all this information are being derived from the lookup function. And to use a lookup function, it is actually very, very simple. First of all, make sure you have your lookup value. You can call VLOOKUP if your data is a normal data set from top to bottom. You can use another one called HLOOKUP if your data is a horizontal one. The normal data runs from top to bottom, so you use a vertical lookup. Provide a lookup value, something to use for the search. It's like performing a search. So the lookup value is whatever you want to look for. Now, if you want to look for something, you provide it, and so whichever cell contains what you want to look for, you put the name of the cell here. Then, table array is the data set or the large data set where your information is going to come from. You provide it. If your data set is a table that has been created like this table, when we come up here to table design, we are going to see that the name of the table is here as table 2. Whenever you format anything as table, you are going to see the name. It's going to appear as table 1, table 2, or table something. You can change it by typing any name that is more meaningful. So if you have organized your data like this in a table like this, you can just provide a table name and it will pick it as a table array. Then the next one that said the column index number is talking about the information you are looking for now. Which column has the information you are looking for? So you count from the first column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whichever column has the information you are looking for, that is the column you provide. Then the last argument is a true or false argument. And sometimes when we use a VLOOKUP, we don't have the actual amount we are looking for, so we use an approximate match. But if what the values you have there are actual values, then use the exact match. Approximate match and exact match simply means true or false. Exact match is false, so you just type false. That is how this function works. Sometimes you can use 0 and 1 for true or false. It will still work. So this is a VLOOKUP function, and it's an amazing tool for analyzing your data.
You said the lookup, what you are doing, you select what you want to look up. So from the first name, we created a list over there.
Yes, so this drop down list here is what will be changing. Okay. So we want the function to look here. Whatever it finds here, it will use that to go and perform the search and fetch the values for us. That is why we are looking here as a lookup value.
So the second one, which is the second sign.
Yes, that one.
That's where we enter the formula.
I want the formula to appear here. So this is where I'll enter it. And here, when I enter the formula, all I want is column 2. Because when you go into the data or my data set, you can see that from the selection I gave, you see I started from first name. The second one is last name. So whichever name I give you, it will go and find the last name for me because it's on column 2. Excellent. Now, this data, I didn't give the entire table because VLOOKUP is very particular about where it begins from. The data set you give to VLOOKUP, it wants the lookup value to come from the first column. And so that is why I was getting an error before, because the lookup value was not coming from the first column. When I provided the entire table, the lookup value was coming from first name, which is second. That is why I came to reselect the data. All right. So thank you very much for coming.